Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. It's September. September, how did that happen? Well, either way, we are doing another birth month flower video, and September's birth month flower is Asters, so let's jump right in. Okay, so to start, I'm just gonna go through my materials. I'm using Canson watercolor paper to draw on, but you can use any paper you have handy. I have a pencil, a kneaded eraser, and then I'm gonna be using my Pigma Micron pens in size 03 and size 01. The difference is just the thickness of the nibs, okay? So let's begin. So we're drawing Asters today, which is September's birth month flower. My gosh, I still don't know how we got here. It feels like March was yesterday. But we're just going to try and draw them different angles, kind of connected to different stems. Let's just do this, okay? So let's have one that's kind of open here. So I'm just going to do like a guideline of the center. And then Asters have really small, long petals. So actually, if you want to, you can do a guideline around for the petals. And if you look on this side, it's a bit shorter, so we'll give it a different perspective. And then let's do one over here. Let's just draw our guidelines. And then we can do another circle around it. So the side where there's longer petals, that just means that you're just going to see more of that side. It's on an angle. And then we can do some that are just kind of popping up. So let's just pretend the center's there, like almost like a cone shape. Okay, and we'll have some coming up in front there. And I think maybe we'll just leave it there and we'll do a couple buds. So let's connect these to one stem. So I'm gonna bring this down here, and I'm kind of guiding the stem right from the center of the stamen so we know where it's going. We'll bring this down here. And then this can come branch off right there, like so. And then we can even have some buds like that. Maybe we'll have another one coming off here. Or another two, maybe. I don't know what we're doing. We're just practicing. Okay, we're just kind of using it as a guide. We can even have this one a bit more flat. This one a bit more cone-shapedy, like that. Okay, now like I was saying, Asters have these nice long thin petals. So let's just do the first. You don't have to do them all, but we'll just do one with our pencil as a guideline. Okay, and the ones on this side are shorter. And if you want to have some like twisting, falling, like no flower is absolutely perfect, okay? So, and then here we'll have some that you can't really see those far petals. They're falling down this way, like that. And you're just gonna do this for all of them. I'm just gonna show you the different perspectives with the pencil. So this one is just kind of blooming. So let's do the far petals first. Like that. And then you're gonna have petals coming up in front of the stamen. So we're just doing a guideline with our pencil, and then we can go over in pen of how we actually want it to look. And then this one, same kind of thing. And don't put too much detail into the pencil part. We're just kind of doing these guidelines. Same kind of thing. Okay, like so. And then you can always add a little bit of thickness to some of these stems. Kind of where two stems meet, there's a bit of a thicker part there where they're branching off into each other. And then you can do little leaves too coming off. Tiny little leaves coming off different sections if you want. Like that. Okay, so now let's grab our size 03. If you do not have different size pens, don't worry about that either. It's not necessary. You can just use a bit more pressure. And then when we do the little bits that are shading, we can go in with a little less pressure to make lighter lines. Okay, so I'm actually going to start off with the centers of the aster. So we're going to just be using little tiny strokes to do these full centers. Let's see. And they're pretty textured. Like so. I actually think I might use my size 01 for this because these are really little textured centers. Okay. And then I'm going to go and start putting in my petals. And they have kind of like a little point to the end or even a little dip on some of them. And remember, they don't have to be perfect. And we're going to be doing some behind too, okay? So you can have some folding and twisting if you like. Like so. Now just to show you, give you a better idea, I'm just going to erase the lines underneath this one. Okay, so we have our first layer of petals, and now we're going to do some petals behind. Okay, oops, get my smaller pen. Here we go. Gonna be poking out behind, going different ways. Okay, you're just going to draw them behind, in between. Okay, and then before we do these ones, I'm just going to show you how to shade this. So we're going to shade it closest to the center of the flower. Just going to add a little bit more darkness. And then we can add some lines to those first round of petals that we did. You can do like a simple little line sketch down the middle, just very, very simple. And then to some of those petals that are behind, you're just going to make a little bit darker with a little bit more shading. So I'm using light pressure to the petals that are behind. And this just creates a bit of a shadow. And you can really darken up some if you want. Like so, okay? Not too much detail, don't worry about it. Like that, okay? And then let's work on the stem. So we can come right down, sorry. You won't really see the part that's holding the flower together. I'm just gonna darken under here, and I'm just gonna do kind of like a, it's not a straight line. There's a little bit of movement to it. I'm gonna leave this open for how the stem goes off here. We're gonna do a little leaf like that. You can add a little bit of shading there. Have a little leaf over here. Nice thin stems like that. And where it goes into another stem, it's gonna come right out. You're not gonna cut it off, if that makes sense. Okay, now let's do this one because this is an interesting point of view for this one. Okay, So this one, you're gonna see kind of the bottom part that holds the flower together just because of the perspective. Okay, and then we're gonna do the petals that are coming up in front of here first. Okay, so they're coming up from this part that holds it. And then you can do the petals in behind. You can have some flopping down a little bit. And then just gonna add a bit more shading to where that stamen is in the middle. And we're gonna do some shading from the bottom of the petals up and the center here. You can do some more in the background if you like. I know it's an odd kind of view, but there we go. Let's erase that just so we can see it a little bit better. Like that, okay? And then you're just gonna kind of continue to do the same thing for all of them. And there you go, that is how you draw asters. Okay, so for the painting portion of this, we have Arches watercolor paper that I'm using, my professional watercolors in my palette, and my Princeton snap brushes in a size 2 and a size 6 round. Okay, so now we are going to paint the asters, and I think we're gonna start with the centers, just kind of laying out where we wanna put those centers. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow ochre, and I'm just gonna kind of place them in a similar way that we did the drawing. Just a light wash to start. So we'll have this one. We'll have a flatter one kind of up here for a smaller one. Maybe another smaller one there. And then a bigger one over here. And then this one, we didn't really see too much of the insides, but I'm just gonna do a tiny little bit there. Okay, so now we're gonna wait for this to dry because I don't want the yellow to bleed into the purple. And then we'll come right back. Okay, so now that it's dry, I'm going to mix my color. I think I'm actually gonna use my size 2 for this, and I'm going to mix kind of a bluish purple. So I'm gonna use some cobalt blue, and then some dioxazine purple. Maybe a bit of permanent rose as well. A bit more blue. You can do whatever hue you like. They come in purples, pinks, whatever you want. Okay. So I'm just gonna water it down. Okay, so now we have the color that we want. You're gonna start, and I'm using this small brush because it will be easier to do these small little petals. You're just going to start where that center is, and you're just gonna push down a little bit and then bring it up. And that's it. Okay, you're just gonna do that side by side all over. Now, if you want to take a pencil and draw the guidelines like how we did for the drawing, you definitely can do that. Just make sure you don't watercolor over top of it so it doesn't, you know, you'll be able to erase it after. But just try and visualize it if you can. So remember on this side, it's a little bit shorter, okay? So you can even just put your guidelines like this. Maybe some different points of where those petals are gonna reach. Okay. And start off with a light wash so you can go back in and add some more darkness. And have them, you know, curve different ways. Give a bit of movement to them. And then you can go back in with a bit more color and tap the base to give them a bit of shadow towards the center. You can also change up the values of them. So do some that are lighter, some that are darker. It just makes it look a bit more interesting. Okay, so there's our first one, and we're gonna go back in and add a second layer in a little bit, but we're just gonna let that dry. So let's move on to our second aster. So this one, remember it's a little bit more flat, so we're gonna do some really short petals on this side, kind of like they're falling down on the other side, and then the longer ones, they kind of get longer on the sides, and then they fall down here. So again, just change up the movement of it, but just shorter on that one side. And again, you can go back in with some darker color. Like that. Okay. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more blue here. Okay, again, same kind of thing. And just keep doing that for all of the first layer of petals. And then remember with this one, let's do the back petals first, because all the petals are kind of facing more upwards, like it's just started to bloom. So let's do the back ones first. Like that. Okay, and then we'll go over in front of it after. Okay, so let that first layer of flower or petals dry, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so let's do our second layer of petals, and you can go a little bit darker with these just to add a bit more volume. So I'm gonna just take my mixture again, a little bit of purple. Okay, and we're just gonna kind of fill in some of those gaps. And it will kind of be like they're layering on top of these petals. So you can still leave some white space because it's not going to be perfect, right? The petals are not going to all move perfectly together. But working in layers also kind of separates those petals. Like that. That. So we're just kind of filling up some of those holes, not all of them. You still do want a bit of white space in between some of them, but you're just adding a few more petals here and there. And again, you can add some darker ones if you like to, like that. Okay, and then this one, I'm going to do some of the petals that are coming up in the front over here. I'm gonna make them a little bit more sparse so you can see a little bit of that center. I'm gonna do some in the background too, like that. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to dry, let's do some of the stems. So I'm just gonna grab some sap green here, and I'm gonna mix it a little bit with this blue. Why not, right? This bluish purple mix. And we're gonna do the same kind of thing that we did with the drawing. So let's start with this one. I'm gonna imagine it's coming behind here touch down at the first sign of white paper, like that. And imagine that stem's coming right from the center, right behind the center bit of the stamen, is what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna bring it down. And then this one has that bit holding those petals together. It's bleeding in there a little bit, but that's okay. Like that. Like so. I can even make it a little bit lighter if you want. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to my green. Okay, and we're just gonna give it a little bit of texture, just where those bits are kind of, the stems are coming together, just adding a little bit of extra green. And then you can also do those little leaves, do them a bit lighter. And then go back in with some darker. There we go. And I'm using my size 2 brush for basically this whole painting. You're getting nice long, thin petals and thin leaves. Go back in with a bit more color, a bit darker green. Just hit the base of some of those. Like that. Okay. And then we're gonna work on the center part just to give it a bit more detail and brighten it up a bit. So I'm actually gonna take some yellow ochre here and my size 2 brush, and I'm just going to do, actually, you know what? No, I'm gonna use cadmium yellow, which is a brighter yellow, and I'm gonna do some dots all over those centers. That. Little tiny dots. Like that. Okay, and then we're gonna wait for that to dry. Oops. And then we will go in with a bit of a darker yellow. Now, if you wanna darken up some of those petals to add a bit more shadow too, especially close to the center, you can just take a little bit and do some like little lines with the tip of your smallest brush. Just for a little bit of extra texture. Like that. And if you want to go back in with some darker green, I just have a darker green mixture here, which I think is Perlene green. And I can just add a little bit of extra texture to some of the stems. Maybe a little bit of the leaves. That. And then let's make sure that those centers are really dry, and we'll add a bit of shading in the center. Okay, so now I'm going to take my yellow ochre color and I'm just going to do some more little dots around just one side of the center, just to make one side a little bit darker, like that. Like that, and then you can even grab some brown, just a little bit of brown, and darken it up again just towards the edge. like that. And it just adds a little bit more dimension. I'm gonna grab a little bit of that cadmium yellow too and just brighten up some of the ones in the centers, like that. And there you go. There are your watercolor asters. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.